Please introduce yourself in the chat as well, and feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation.
Hi, my name is Dale. It's an honor to be here, as I mentioned in the chat. So thankful because of the connections in Chicago. I'm in St. Louis, in Osage, Illini land, but I'm deeply rooted in Chicago as well. My family is a part of the American Black migration, and I have so many beloved loved ones there outside of my relatives and spiritual practice. And so glad to see some of you all actually in this workshop today. So let's just get right into it. Thank you earlier for making the prompt to put who you are in the chat. It helps with time. We will be doing some group conversation. So if you don't want to participate, we'll just self-select that when it comes to that time, but we're going to be engaging with one another. Okay? So, yep. Community ecological accountability. The wild thing is, how are we going to hold others accountable? That's a thing that everyone wants to know. We can only hold ourselves accountable based on our own values, our own core values, and our own capacity. I'll say that. So if the conversation is how are we going to hold others accountable, I want to let you know that we can only hold ourselves accountable. And then we can organize with those of us who show up after we have our own individual convictions in place. So, for the who am I? What do I do? Then I want to know a little bit about you all. What is ecological accountability and what our collective next steps are going to be? Excuse me, I'm talking fast now, but only because this is the not as fun part. The fun part is getting to know what we all do together next collectively. I'm Dale. I've done some TED Talks about some community inquiries, ethnographic inquiries in my community that informs the market study researches that I do. It informs my crop plan. It informs my community engagement. And I just thought I'd put my TED picture up there because that's the most recent talk that I was able to talk about that. I talked a little bit about it last year for the summit here with you all as it related to my family and cultural heritage. This year, see, I can't see myself, so y'all will have to excuse me. I'm gonna stop share real quick. So silly. At least I can see you. Okay. I'll put it back up. This year, the main thing I want to tell you is that in St. Louis, we organized to do a field guide through a local institution called the Contemporary Art Museum of St. Louis. And how we organized for that is that a friend who is also connected in Chicago, Juan William Chavez, and I collaborated as the lead teaching artist and worked with community members in our literal neighborhood, place in our place, right, that stewards the land. With doing that, we then decided to come up with community agreements for the institution and the community and the plants. Now, this is something that's been going on lately as an organizing practice because some of us are practicing restorative justice circle keeping. With restorative justice circle keeping, we want to know who did it, what can I do, and what needs to be done, and who has to do what in a safe way, in a way that's uplifting and affirming and that is not blaming. And so when we get into dealing with plants and land, a lot of time it is we think we know because of the systems in which we've grown up and been indoctrinated into, and we have to use an extra sense of awareness to determine how we should really engage. In this book, North Creative Field Guide, we get into it a little bit. Um, but we have community and cultural agreements. And I know this is backwards, but I want to just show this to you all because it's possible to take what we're doing today and have institutional impact. I want to differentiate because here now we're doing, oh, thank you so much. Um, right now we're talking about ecological agreements because this is our work. This is what we've already chosen in our life path, in our profession. But community and cultural agreements were established with this institution because of the intersections of even coming into neighborhoods and changing the boundaries of gentry and development and how it relates to not only the human but earth as well. And so we wanted to focus on cultural nuances because it's an arts institution. So you see how it's translatable. Okay, so let me go back to share. I'm going to take a breath. If you have a question while I'm taking a breath and going back to share, put it in the chat now. Okay, let me check the chat. Thank you for putting the field guide information into the chat. Oh, Tekken. Glad to see you, Tekken. Thank you all. Nice to meet you, Haley. Katie, thank you for all your hard work. M.E. Riley, wonderful. Rachel, nice to meet you. Of course, Pancho, you the man, person, human, living being. Issa, nice to meet you. Stephanie, nice to meet you as well. Nick, Hizashi, wonderful. I love that you're working with youth. Nice to meet you, Ryan, and Jessica, Forrest, and anyone else that I've missed. Okay, so I don't see where you all have any questions. Perfect. And see, uh-oh, now I did something silly. There we go. So I am still screen sharing. So are you all seeing me see me? What's happening?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, let me go back. I apologize. Okay, hi, Tiffany. Nice to see you. Of course, we love everything with Cook County. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to stop the share because I don't know what I'm doing and then put it back on. All right, so we talked about me, and this is where to find me. I'm a mother, artist, ecological land steward, restorative justice circle keeper, doula, and more. The greatest thing about last year is that I had the opportunity to be one of three facilitators for the 151st private case of reparations in the United States. And it was amazing. It was an amazing opportunity for me to have a better, deeper understanding of what land healing looks like. I didn't say land justice, definitely land healing. Um, I run an orchard, Coahoma Orchards. Coahoma Orchards is the place for Coahoma Orchards Community Research Institute. It's a multi-site heritage farm series in North St. Louis. In 2025, on May 16th, we were hit with a devastating storm, and most of us were without power for a week. We've lost so much real estate, built infrastructure, business, and about 20,000 people have been displaced. I'm thankful that my damage has been minimal, but this crisis has pushed us deeper into mutual aid and restorative justice practices on a very grounds level. We hold circles at Community Orchards Research Institute on community issues. In the one here, we did one on at the center to look at what impacts are going on in our neighborhood that has also some national or personal resonance. And then you'll see at the top this beautiful homeschool group with Nikki from the BBC. We host homeschool groups on Wednesdays and Thursdays. As a regular, this is our in-house homeschool group, and we do ecological studies and farm practices with the young people. They are in my mindfulness site at this moment, which is a native food forest with chokeberry and plums, persimmons and pawpaws, and lots of native flowers. I am on my fifth year at that site, and we're in the backyard of the farmhouse for the other one. Now, who are you? I want to know a little bit about the group. And as you see on the side of page 7, this is confidential. I want to make a point to say it's important for us to not story share from others, to speak from the I, and to speak from experience, not what you think you know or what you've read or what you've heard. And answer some of these questions. Pick maybe one of the questions and we'll answer it in the chat. And then maybe I'll call on someone for time's sake. The first question is name a value. What is your core value working with land, plants, and the natural world? What is your why? What is it that keeps you grounded in this work? And this question I'm asking, this is a one sentence answer. We can get really deep, but because of time and because of building relationship, we want to take it slow and really respond with intention. And I know again, I will apologize. I'm speaking fast. However, I want us to breathe and think slow, respond slow, uh, feel instead of take in. And so the second question, you have the option of asking. You can pick one of these questions. If you feel like tackling more than one, that's fine. Is name an aspect that deserves healing. What in our ecological practice deserves healing? What are we seeing happening to the earth around us that deserves healing? What is, pressing for you? Or, or, what's your favorite aspect of ecological stewardship? I love weeding. I love weeding because no one wants to do it. That's my example. Do you love maintaining or meditating in the land? Do you love the food it produces? Let's get into it. So it is 2:19. I will give 3 minutes for us to think about this. I'll leave the screen on. There's no wrong answers. I'm hoping you all will join in with me. Okay. When it is that our 3 minutes is up, the next thing I will do is probably read from the book. Alrighty, I'll turn my audio off. Probably got a little bit less than 1 minute. Looks like we're at time. And let me just read a little bit from the North St. Louis Creative Field Guide for you all before we get into the chat. Okay, it's 2:23. We're not pressed. That's great. Hope y'all are feeling good, well cared for, well resourced, hydrated. This is a small passage, not from me, but from a good friend of mine, Juan William Chavez, who used to work at the Art Institute of Chicago and is a partner in planting. He has a studio with his partner that is a outdoors ecological space, not that far from our locations in North St. Louis, and he does bee work. So I want to tell you about not just Juan, but someone that's an inspiration to us all, Charles Henry Turner. Now, in this passage with Juan that Juan wrote, I'm just going to read one paragraph. Charles Henry Turner, Garden as a Laboratory. Okay. Charles Henry Turner, born 1867 through 1923, was a renowned zoologist and pioneering figure in studying insect behavior. His research, primarily conducted at O'Fallon Park in North St. Louis, resulted in the publication of 49 papers on various invertebrates, including notable works on ants and honeybees. His innovative findings revealed that insects are capable of performing complex behaviors in learning, such as recognizing visual patterns and navigating using landmarks. Turner's work, which was revolutionary for its time, advocated for a cognitive approach to understanding animal behavior. He emphasized the role of memory in learning in insects, challenging the notion that their actions were purely instinctual. Okay, so if anyone did not know about Charles Henry Turner, get into it. Katie, do you mind typing his name in the chat for me?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, great. Um, So that was just, our dedicated ancestor for this workshop. 49 papers, and he's studying honeybees helps all of us because we need the food. We need the pollination, right? So let's see what she said. And I'm also going to, after that, turn the screen share back on. Cultivating community. We want to stretch ourselves to think and describe what community is for us in our hyperlocal lives, in our hyperlocal ways of being, and really do some asset mapping. I know these we're using these words about what ecologically is already a part of our community, you know. So I'm glad we started there. A lot of times we think about our social community, but as Charles Henry Turner did, he's looking at pollinators, in his own backyard. So definitely, I love this, Issa. I hope I'm saying your name right. Treating all living beings with respect, reciprocity, and love. Yes. And what other values? The having the connection to something bigger than myself in the world. Yes, that we're in a network of life that supersedes what it is that we are experiencing in the moment or think we know. I totally agree. Haley, And I'm sure you all, I see that y'all have already read these. So excuse me as we go through some of these together. And I saw when Valentina posted this one about simply existing and how beautiful that is to push past our humanity to this existence that is productive in itself. Yes. Um, Mike Textro, thank you. Intentionality, thank you for saying, and the integrity part, right? So that's how we have to come up with some strategies. That's taking all the values and having direct ideas about how we're going to move forward in our everyday life, then coming together and determining collectively what our plan of action is going to be. That is the organizing strategy around this. Yeah, favorite aspect, convening and gathering folks in ways that do not have definite outcomes. Well, see, this does have a definite outcome, only because even if we don't come up with anything collectively, I want you all to make a choice today on how you're going to dig deeper into your own practice and come up with some accountability for yourself, even in your own ecological practice, even if it's not taking on these big issues. Okay? Um, The reciprocity again. I love that. Yes. Oh, forest. Presence. That is the most powerful currency that we have. And that is the generating force within itself. And it helps everything just be in existence. So this is so wonderful that you all are going abstract and being humans with me about this bigger matter because I'm so glad not seeing very like traditional responses. Mm, yes, the world is our mother. Indigenous land deserves healing. Now, land is indigenous, whether we're indigenous or not, right? So, how can we deconstruct that concept even further and look at the mineral? Look at the pollution, look at the radiation, and remind ourselves that, all even the concrete, the stuff underneath the concrete been here longer than us. Yes to freshwater systems. Um, yes, 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 yes. So, anyway, let me go back to the screen share. And this is another pause moment. If anyone has anything they want to expand on from their core values or the intention or anything that we put in the chat, please raise your hand and let me know. So I'm not talking to myself. No, we're still going. Okay, cool. Perfect. I'm all good with that too. Somebody do something in the chat. Make sure y'all not falling asleep on me though. Thank you. Great. Great. Okay, so I'll screen share again. Now I know a little bit about you all. I know why you're here, why you care. Okay, let's get into agreement. Okay, the slides are not cute. They are very standard for this purpose. We want to know some of the reasons why people come up with agreements. A lot of folks want to increase more stewardship, of course, lessen ecological harm, of course. This is all, of course, for me. It might be something different for you. And some people are really dedicated to figuring out what does our environment need. One thing that we did not mention is food sovereignty. And we do need food sovereignty. We do need a balanced way to provide for ourselves with the earth. And that's a large part of why some of us even begin to grow our first tomatoes. And these are all ways to expand ecological accountability. Now, this is what I'm about to ask you all to do. Here we are in the chat again. What? core value do you think is most important to talk about when doing ecological work? Or not just talk about, but act on and be mindful of? Just one word, if you can throw it in the chat. What are we being accountable about? Are we being accountable for the development? Are we being accountable to about how it relates to us and the, asthma rates in our area or, cancer alleys? Is this a community issue? Tell me in the chat just one word. What are we being accountable about? Okay. I'm gonna stop share. I mean, unless you all really need this chart here, I'm gonna stop share for a moment. I'm about to pick on y'all in the chat this time, okay? Because we have to have a conversation. We're doing a lot of it in the chat. But see, impacting what? Impacting what? I'm asking us to dig deep because impact, if we're at a policy meeting and everyone's using the word, this is just an example, and I hope we feel safe, Tech, and that I use yours a um, as a way to process through what we're saying. We're in a policy meeting and we want to put a new agricultural zone in our neighborhood, and we have to advocate about it. And someone says impact. If we're not careful, we might open up a door for big developers with large funds to come in and maybe put a big concrete slab down and do vertical farming in a situation where we lose hundreds and thousands of native trees. So let's really think about this, right? What are we being accountable about? What are we really saying we want to do with our energy? Okay, M.E. Riley says, and this is not a beat up on, I just need an easy example for us to dig deep. Um, accountability about which community, hello, receiving benefits and research and who is not. Accountability and honesty about who are leaving behind. Now, okay, this is another example. Let's get into it. My personal tick. Now, I do have organizations. I told you all about my land stewardship practice. I do not, I have a tick about this is, I'm dedicated to this as a part of my life work. I understand that I'm a part of Earth, that everything is reciprocal, that about with me communing with the land to grow food, that I'm communing to my mind, body, spirit, society, Sankofa, my ancestry, and also the future and the potential of future. I'm investing. My personal tick is when a academic may come into the community and take some tours or volunteer a few times, and then the next thing you know, they have a grant so they could try their hand at it too. And I don't know how to take account for that. I don't know who to take my story to and say, hey, this is not only injustice to me, but it's also an injustice to how we formally learn and work with and grow with the land. How would someone in this group hold account to what I'm saying as the example that was inspired by Riley's accountability statement? Can someone raise their hand and take a bite at this? Oh my God, I'm gonna have to start picking on people. Excuse me for saying on my OMG.
I have a thought that's coming up if I'm okay to share.
Yes.
So I guess it's like taking accountability for us reclaiming our own power that has been extracted by white folks from indigenous communities and people of the global majority, right? That we're accountable to ourselves and to each others, but then knowing that that power was ours from the beginning and that we got to take it back. And it's like, I guess, self-ownership too of it. But that's just what's coming up to mind.
Yes. But also, um, we do want to hold ourselves accountable to be honest in our communications to the folks that we're working through that struggle with, right? Like, I agree. And I would also say, oh, someone said voicing our mission, not a performance. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Rachel gets it, as well as trying the hand and grifting. Sometimes the grifting, when we do ecological work, it takes something from us, it takes something from the land, it takes something from our grow practice. And as we've seen with the overuse of non-native plants, it takes something from our pollination. We have to be careful. We want to make sure that relationship is at the center as we determine these things. Okay, I'm going back to screen share. Okay, in a certain sense of awareness and listening. And I extend that to our flora and fauna and our birds and our animal kin. We've our weather has been so wonky that, I can see a difference in pattern of the birds and their chirping and just the general drum of the earth, the general drum of how we're moving with the earth on top of with our built environment. I'm not sure if other people are noticing some shifts in time over the past, especially since COVID-19. It seems to be a lot different patterns of grow, patterns of what is producing at what rates at what times of year. As we know, we had some zone shifts for many of us. Um, and I want to get into this part about neighborhood development and what it means to be a good neighbor. Because yes, we're land stewards. That means just like there's a wave of gentle parenting going on across our culture, that we want to think about our neighborly care and what that means ecologically. Because of plenty of times, there's ways for us to take these big idea missions and apply them practically by advocating for what we need in our direct community. Now, that's a lot of labor after a long day of being in the sun, right? But it could look as simple as if you have an online presence, having your statement of what you think an accountable ecological development looks like. It could be incorporating this concept of what it looks like in a whole neighborhood to include the river or include, for me, a mound in my creative practice to bring awareness to others, things that maybe we're thinking too much socially right now. Maybe we're thinking too historically. Maybe this new development project has all the shiny bells and whistles, but no one's thought about native plants or no one's thought about the animals that are naturally the squirrels or whatever it is your topic is. Also, I want to talk about the community care. What does community, and this is a question I'll stop sharing the screen, but this is another real question for us as a group. When we're thinking about ecological accountability and being land stewards in all these spaces that we're in our homes, in urban environments, in our professional environments, with the direct soil, with the plants. What does community care look like for you? You can tell me the truth of what you're working through, or you can give me your idealized version, either or, and I'll stop share for a moment. And that's another thing. Maybe 3 minutes, I'll put it in the chat. And then you all put it in the chat, excuse me. Thank you all. I'll give it 1 more minute so we can get a few more responses. Okay. Community care. Okay, decentering human needs and wants. Seeing our real place in the sphere we're in instead of thinking we're the tippy top. Understanding my needs aren't your needs. Right. And coming up with a way to determine as a human, as what we can do, what we got, how to find our shared needs, right? That's another thing to organize around. Community care in my work looks like tending the relationships around the boundaries of empathy, trust, and understanding, centering in mutuality by being in deep relationship to both my needs and the needs of all the other beings, non-beings around me. Whew. Well, that's not a one-person job for sure. That is a collective work and a collective responsibility for sure, which is why we're all here now. Understanding that a farmer's market role is more than a place to buy food, it's a whole ecosystem, right? It's the plug. The farmer's market is the plug. Come through. Um, Community care in this work is collaboration, open and safe, mindful communication that is active and available, sharing of material and energetic resources, encouraging one another, networking as a means of everyone making it, not just climbing a ladder. Noticing the invisible or unpaid labor that actually makes the work happen and uplifting those voices and people. I want to pause, Stephanie, because you're bringing up a thing. Because of nonprofit industrial complex, because of the myth of lack of resource, because we have to actually determine our own needs and wants and physical capacity, right? Like, How can we visibly show the work and the humanity? How can we constantly question this larger media cray cray, for lack of better words, about things just pop out of thin air? You know, we have to slow the process down and look at the nuance of not only why the person is doing this work, but how the small nuances of doing it in public or private impacts all of us, whether we know it or not. And so, thank you for saying that. Thinking about how residents of a neighborhood put time and effort to build a green space and how this can lead to gentrification and displacement when the space increases the value of a neighborhood for developers, making sure this time and effort doesn't lead to displacement on a long-term scale. Woo! Right? We're getting into real issue again. We're getting into real issue that has real consequence on real people and real families and real butterflies. Real bees. Now, I had to do extra organizing work as a person that could potentially seem as I am stewarding in gentrification into my neighborhood. I've been here for 7 years, and I'm one of those folks who buy the block. So when I purchase the lands, like a one parcel vacant lot, I turn it into food forests. And for some of those lots, there's a fence. And so I'm creating boundaries in the community in which I live. And I'm aware of that. And how do I negotiate that to folks who may have been here for 30 and 40? See, I don't mind being transparent and using myself as example too, by the way. But how can I do this in a way that honors everyone? Well, I did not ask for permission because I'm a bit of a sovereign soul. And I had to learn from there. One thing that I did is that I door knocked first of all, I had to find out who was with it and who wasn't. Let's get to the root. Who don't mind these gardens and who got a total problem? And with that being the case, I had to door knock. I came with a gift, a small piece of soap. That I did some soap and then I put them in little baggies with an affirmation on them, introducing myself. Who am I? Right? Before I can complain about you complaining about me, let me properly introduce me to you and tell you my why. And I also shared some benefits to my why and some core values that I care about in a short little letter wrapped in soap with a bow on it, saying thank you for being my neighbor. Then I began to ask questions by the neighbors who have been living there the longest so that I can grow that food and give it to them. And then I became active in my block unit, in my community group, not just to push the agenda of food, but to bridge the intersectional understanding of the food disparity that we're in and the attack on gentry and how our food can be a pathway to healing and collectively organizing because it's a very strong currency within itself. And then from there, I continue to build relationships. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I'm the Block Unit historian now. I spent a lot of, and two of the block unit members now have raised beds in the site. Okay. And they were already growing food in their backyards. They just weren't doing it so boldly in a vacant lot because of the fear of gentrification. And I know that for my block because I had to have those conversations. Um, So, community care to me looks like having open dialogues with each other and leaving space for learning, healing, and growing together. And then hashtag Healthy Food Hub. Do you want to take a moment and say anything about Healthy Food Hub? I'll pause. Mike, Tech, are you there? Do you want to say anything about Healthy Food Hub? Okay, let's get into it. Okay, what kind of question did you ask those neighbors? How did you identify the area you want to help develop into a food forest? First of all, I needed something by the house that was walkable to me. I needed something that I have a small child. I'm a single parent. I was a single mother, and for one, so I had a teenager and a baby at the same time. So I needed something that we could easily get to without having to worry about food or anything else. I began to pick the lots that way. Some of my neighbors knew what I was doing from my first idea because they were already the folks who were on the porch waving and talking to me. I speak to people, I look at people, I say hello. So I only had to walk half a block, but the half a block that I had to walk was over a major intersection. Neighbors had already been seeing me for about a year or two, like pick up trash and do the things that we have to do to keep our community nice without the politics of block unit or community neighborhood association. And so that's where my starting point was direct eye contact. Then, after I found out there was a little bit of an issue and that everybody didn't want the garden, I paused, right? That's where we came in with the letters with a little nice note wrapped with the soap in a little brown bag. But the questions I asked in the survey was what foods did they grow up eating? What foods did do cures a cold? What's their favorite foods? What foods would they like to eat that they cannot eat? Or, maybe they have an allergen, things like that. When it got into door knocking about the potential of me being a threat and a support to gentrification, I asked them, did they grow their own food? Did they know that my lot is not a community garden that is just a one-time 2-year garden that I'll leave derelict? I enforce that I am committed to the community and that I'm their neighbor too, like I'm a real human person, like knock on my door if you need me. And I asked them, what could I do to support them resisting gentrification? If the issue is that you scared that I'm gonna bring those people, then what can I do to show you through action that I'm committed to the folks that are already here? And that got mixed reviews. You find some people want new neighbors, right? They want gentry. And then there's like, just because there's 5 organizers on a block. In my situation, we got 4 strong organizers on my block, and we organize together. But the block over where it is that the half a block over, we have to cross the intersection to get to that block unit doesn't have many organizers. And there's a mix of what gentrification even looks like for them. And so that was the opportunity for me to give my opinion, of course, but also learn that some folks, everybody didn't have the same shared political analysis of the situation, even though they love each other. And I did not, because I'm not the resident on that block. I did not insert myself into that part, and I moved into support role as I moved forward with my grow plan. I didn't want to come in being the expert, supposed expert, or pretending as though that I had the cure for this, because I don't. I have the cure for starvation, and I have the cure for pollinators, and I have the cure for healthy food access by demonstrating growing food, fruit, and vegetables around me. But when it gets into what a city's policy plan looks like, I have to do a lot of deep listening, and I have to do a lot of comparison to what I hear from the folks who I am with, the folks that I want to get to know, and these larger developers, institutions, and nonprofits to better assess what my role is. Because as an artist farmer, I'm targeted as the gateway holder to some of this, and I fully accept any perception that someone would unknowingly have of what it looks like to live a liberated life. does not mean that that defines my practice, but it's something to work with if we know what people see. I hope that answered your question. Okay, so let me go back to my share. We're almost done with the share stuff. Mm, okay. So on my little tree thing that I've made here, um, we're looking at our relationships again to people, to the plants. And that's a pathway of what we always call advocacy or conversation, or where we can find the tensions. And as you see on page 9 here in the little corner, it says confidential because if there's something that you've seen in the chat, speak from the I. Don't tell other people's stories in other workshops. You can say how you're inspired or how it is that made you think of something else. But make sure to just be honorable of everyone's stories. I'm a storyteller, and so often we want to share something that happened to someone else, but maybe there's a more relevant story that needs to be told in your own lived experience. Um, and in neighborhood development, that's an area for all of us to get in because we live, everybody here lives somewhere. So just figuring out what that looks like and coming to some accounts for yourself that way. And also, again, this community care and what does it look like? Something that didn't really come up was how do you want to be cared for as an ecological land steward? That's something I would love to hear in the chat. I won't make time for it now. Um, we'll skip the rest of that. But that's where we're at. I'm gonna stop sharing the screen. And we have just a few more minutes. Do you all have any more questions for me? Because it seems like we have extra time, which I'm so shocked about. May I ask someone what are their care needs as a person who is doing this work? What does what is it for that you need to be more accountable? Well, for me, I'll say I need honest, transparent. I like when people are direct with me. With good communication, we can get through anything. I want to see honest, direct communication in the media, which I know is a long shot, right? But that means I have to make choices about what I expose myself to. I have to fact check things that I see on social media or only take in information from certain sources. My first source of information when it comes to land and the ecology is land and ecology. Before I'll read about it, I might go observe it, check it out, look at it, feel it, touch it. Um, and let me finish this thought and I'll answer the question. And I need rest. I've had to come up with a self-care plan physically to make sure that I can continue to do this work for another 20, 25, 30, 40, maybe even 50 years, who knows? Um, and the question, do you have food recovery partners or in general, what does partnership like? Okay, so I grow food and then I give my food to my neighbors. I purchase the lots and then I rematriate them through orchard. I have a partnership with my local zoo. because they're such a large institution. Land stewardship and food access is a part of that because they have to feed both animals and people and the earth to create the scenes for the different displays at the zoo. And their partnership with me is through native foods and native people, native plants, native places. And I work with National Black Food and Justice Alliance, just so you know, one of the organizations I'm affiliated with through a local organization, Acres in St. Louis. I've worked with the Smithsonian. I've worked with my neighbors direct. Like some of the folks that work on my farm that are not volunteers are people who are from my block. Other artists and creatives who are directly resourced through the food production. And like I said, I give away a lot of food. I can't say I give away all the food. If I said that earlier, excuse me. I give away most of the food. And my main market item and value added products is my teas from the herbs and my floral arrangements. And then I also create art from some of the things that I grow on the farm. You could probably see that on my social media and Instagram, things like that. You can Google me. So partnership looks like I am very careful in choice with institutional partners. I have a wide range of relationships, and if that rolls into being an organizational partnership, then I allow it. But I work with the neighbors directly on my block and then work my way from there in terms of what feels good and right about what needs to be done at the time. I do restorative justice circle keeping. Those trainings come from FAMSAJ. A lot of times people pop up and start saying circle this, circle that, or using terminologies that they've heard on the internet. I strongly believe in lineage. I've worked with Pancho. I did permaculture courses with Pancho McFarland, who's on this call. I work close. I've worked in space with Tekken, Mike Strode, who does Healthy Food Hub. I'm a restorative justice circle keeper because that's the pathway for healing. My work is at the intersection of ecological stewardship and social art practice, but I'm a doula. So I give to the local doula groups in my area, as well as people that I see coming from the corner store who might need items. So I have a kind of like I don't want to say a niche, but a practice. Um, Thank you so much, Forrest, for for being in this session. And then Katie asks, what does rest look like to you? And to the others in the chat. Thank you, Nick. Exactly all that. Hello. Um, with the beginning steps, establish partnerships and connections like the ones you mentioned. How did you approach connecting with your neighbor? I'm a door knocker. I wave and talk to people. I figure out what folks like. You know what I mean? I get to know them for who they are, not what I need to know. And then I take it from there. And I'm honest and I tell them, I'm an artist. You're going to find colorful things around me, some plants. If you like to grow plants, let me know. And just kind of, sometimes you have to vulnerably express who you are to build connection because those are the connections that are going to supersede organizational partnerships. That's my opinion about that. Um, how do I balance all? I am nature. This is my natural state. So sometimes it might not look balanced. Sometimes, and I'm okay, right? I'm okay because I woke up today. Balance for me is how is my body doing? How am my emotions ruling my decision making? Am I able to be present with these monarchs today? Am I able to get the squash or am I going to be rushing to get the squash because I have a Zoom? Those are real questions that I have to slow down and make priority choice decisions on that, me run schedule me no run run me, type. Like I'm not about to this is a part of the decolonization and liberation of knowing who you are. and saying, this is my scope, and being real about that. Um, Very, very difficult work. And that's what I truly mean when I say that we're taking account, right? Because we want to start that garden. We want to go outside and get the fruit off the tree, right? We all love harvest. But maybe it is we need to just focus on one aspect of that and have a long-term build-out plan that's sustainable for generations to come and is not so much about what tasks we can get done. So that's been some of the things that on in real time as I deal with developers and extractive players to be and folks with in policy and neighbors who want the gentry and those who are scared because they know my shiny thing's gonna bring them. Those are the things I have to work out in real time, which means I have to listen to myself, relax my body, not be influenced by others' agendas that they may or may not have shared, and really go from a heart-centered place on how I want to move with my own personal mission, and it relates to whatever work I'm doing. Because I got goats in the city of St. Louis, and that's not really what we're supposed to be doing. I'm doing a vulnerable share right now. I've had to build relationship to create a protection practice about the goats because now the neighbors are for the goats. And a shared understanding about what responsibility looks like because no one wants to smell like a goat because they're hanging out. They don't want to hear the goats if they want attention. And that comes with me having to say, hey, aren't these things cute? Like, not things, but aren't the goats cute? I know you're not used to seeing this in an urban environment, but this goat is actually smaller than your large dog. Uh, and like work through it. And working through it has been like the deepest, most enriching work, especially as I'm doing this in an urban built environment for me. Um, so yeah, being comfortable with being uncomfortable for the sake of not only humanity, but life and existence beyond humanity. Let's see. Yes. Now, M.E. Riley, whenever we figure out how to fully free ourselves from the pressures and traumas of capitalism, wow, you come back here and you find me, please. Oh, and thank you, Issa. Uh, yes, Ashe. Mm-hmm. Doing nothing is good for us. Okay, it looks like it's time for us to take our poll. I'm gonna take the poll too, I think. I've enjoyed spending this time with y'all. Thank you for listening to me, receiving what I have to say. If you ever want to find me, you can find me at dalechambers.life. Okay? I have a contact form there, art, all kind of weird stuff. All right, I'll take the poll and be quiet.
Dale, thank you so much. This was such a wonderful conversation. It was really nice how you led us through these very reflective and I feel like very meditative questions. So I really appreciate it. Thank you all for also taking the poll. It should have popped up. But if it doesn't, just look for the red notification near the chat. We'll wrap up in a few minutes. I'm going to stop the recording and just very excited